Welcome to BUEI Talks, Island SOS. I'm William Campbell, your host for today's presentation. This 8-part series focuses on innovative, sustainable ocean development initiatives in island nations around the globe, and each presentation will highlight a different island and topic. It will highlight the unique perspective and involvement that islands have on ocean conservation, and it will showcase the different practices that they've undertaken to safeguard their surrounding ocean. BUEI also appreciates the generous sponsorship of Chubb Bermuda, the exclusive sponsor of this series. Island SOS aligns with Chubb's mission to promote a healthy and sustainable planet, to strengthen the resilience of communities, and to protect biodiversity against the effects of climate change. Today is the 8th presentation in the series this year and our final one. And today we'll be focusing on the work on the past BUI Island SOS talks and the presenters as they provide an update on their sustainable ocean strategies, including the successes, challenges, and lessons that they've learned. So please join me in welcoming Kajarina McKinney Lambert of the Bahamas again, of Faye Sapsford, Bermuda, of Ludovic Burns of Easter Island, Paul Brickell of the Falkland Islands, Laverne Ryan of Montserrat, and Sue Norrider of the Noiseys too. Welcome back, Kajarina. Nice to see you. Welcome in, Sue. Welcome, Paul.
Morning.
Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be back.
Thank you. Very glad to have you. So we're just going to get started, folks, with first hearing off from our presenter from Bermuda, Faye Sapsford, who has a video recorded for us to share on her responses to the following questions. Have there been any changes to your sustainable ocean strategy, and if so, what and why? What wins have you had since your presentation, if any? And if there are any takeaways for your sustainable ocean strategy that you would like people to remember in future? Leading off with Faye.
Hi everyone, this is Faye from the Sargasso Sea Commission, and I'm really excited to be part of this Island SOS update, so thanks a lot to BUEI for putting it on. And so the first question is, has there been a change to my SOS? And like I said, I work for the Sargasso Sea Commission, so what the commission is really a way to bring together governments and scientific experts to steward and conserve the Sargasso Sea, which is this iconic high seas area around Bermuda. And yeah, the way that we're doing that is through a non-political declaration called the Hamilton Declaration that was signed in Bermuda in 2014, and that kind of established the structure of our independent scientific experts on our commission, and then the governments who have decided to sign this document in a non-politically binding way to decide to come together and collaborate on conservation for the ocean. So that hasn't changed. Um, as you can imagine, those kind of processes take a very long time to establish and to change. On top of that, we have our projects that are funded by the Global Environment Facility and the French Facility for Global Environment, that are ongoing still. So I think we had just kind of started them when I gave the talk, and now we're a little bit into each one. Um, and things haven't really changed in a huge way in those projects, but we have had some updates. So we are engaging with various scientific implementing partners to give us data on, from an ecological perspective, um, to kind of provide a factual case for why it's important to protect the Sargasso Sea. So we're bringing together all of that scientific knowledge, and we've had 2 reports from each of our implementing partners. From 2 of our implementing partners, we're just waiting on the third one. So that's kind of how we're progressing with that. Um, After all those reports have come in, we can then go ahead and put together our what we're calling a socio-ecosystem diagnostic analysis, which is just looking at economic and social factors. Again, just building a factual basis for why it's important to protect the Sargasso Sea. So that kind of document is meant to be not opinion based at all, but just like fact unquestionable. And then on top of that, we're going to create a strategic action program, which is going to be endorsed by the stakeholders of the Sargasso Sea. So those government representatives and scientific experts, about what conservation mechanisms can we put in place. So you kind of use the first scientific factual document to inform that second phase. We're not there yet, but those are the kind of updates.
All right, and next, welcome Kazarine McKinney-Lambert. Hello, Kazarine.
Okay. Great. Hello. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank
Nice
you
to
so
see you
much.
again.
Likewise.
If I may ask.
So just a quick update from the Bahamas, and let's get to where I was. We are experiencing this year a lot of the programs that we talked about last time around with getting kids into the water and really using our ocean as an underwater classroom, getting young people out to experience the beauty of the ocean, but also understand the threats. So this is one of our summer camps. We do a lot of these kinds of activities, getting kids in the water. But what I want to touch on today, because it's of critical importance, is the underwater heat wave that's been going on around the world, but in the Bahamas. NOAA has some great information on global temperatures. And what we're seeing now is the warmest August, or we saw the warmest August on record. When it comes to underwater, this is some really great graphics that they have that have to do with looking at degree heating weeks. The further you get into the purple, the more stressful it is for corals. And we have some where we've got 17, 18 degree heating weeks in the Bahamas. I know some of our neighbors to the south in the Caribbean are experiencing this also. So I'm interested in hearing your perspectives. What this looks like on the ground, this is a picture I shared last year of a healthy coral, staghorn coral propagation unit that we had. This is the picture from last year. This is what it looked like in July. The same coral propagation unit growing completely bleached. So these corals are still alive, but they're bleached. And unfortunately, this is the same coral propagation unit, and these corals are dead and are covered with algae. So this is super stressful. This underwater heat wave is very problematic and is really a crisis for our coral reefs. They're not all like that. There is some hope. This photo was also taken in August. This is my son, and he's working on the coral propagation unit that we have in a little bit deeper water. And these corals obviously still have a lot of color and are doing really well. And these are some of the outplants. This is some outplants from last year. This is where we plant the corals onto the reef, and they're able to grow and create habitat for fish and other species. This is what some of these outplants look like in August. You can see this elkhorn coral. The staghorn coral is completely white. It's still alive, but is completely white. I showed some pictures of this last year. This is the world's largest underwater sculpture. This is Ocean Atlas that we created in 2014, really as a beacon of hope for the ocean. It's a young girl holding the future of the ocean on her shoulders. And unfortunately, all that white on her is bleached coral that has actually since died since I took that picture in July. So when you go underwater, it looks like there's piles of snow everywhere. These are some of the corals just south of Andros in one of the places that was listed as hottest on that NOAA map. And it's not just relevant to corals. This is the spiny lobster, Caribbean spiny lobster or crawfish, and is completely dependent on healthy coral reefs. And these reefs look like snow drifts. It's also worth pointing out that some of the corals look beautiful. For any of you who've seen the film Chasing Corals, you see these beautiful neon colors. And these are corals that are going through extreme heat stress. And these are some Porites corals in Andros. And it's not just corals that are being impacted. So the picture on the left are some anemones, colonial anemones, and the picture on the right are soft corals. So we're seeing hard corals, anemones, soft corals, are all being impacted by this heat stress. The waters are cooling now, and this is a coral that is getting some zooxanthellae back and is regaining some of its color. But really the sort of take-home message right now is that we are experiencing a terrible crisis underwater, and we need to take action. We need to take climate action. And I really appreciate you guys bringing together island nations, because it's really island nations, particularly tropical island nations and subtropical island nations that are experiencing the brunt of this climate crisis. So thank you so much, and I look forward to the discussions.
Thank you. And Kazreen as well, is there any one takeaway in particular that you'd like people to remember?
I think just that our corals really are this sort of canary in the coal mine. So as we talk about, where we're going with this warming world, the corals are feeling the brunt of it first. So I think the take-home message is we need to take action on climate. There's certainly other things that we can do in the meantime, reducing some of the other stresses that our coral reefs are experiencing, whether that's from pollution or physical habitat destruction. So there's a lot that we can do to kind of reduce that overall stress. But when you see the waters as warm as they have been, it should really be a wake-up call that we have to take climate action.
Absolutely, Matt. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing again.
Thank you.
If we can now welcome Mr. Paul Brickle from the Falkland Islands again.
Yeah, hi, and thank you so much for inviting me back. It's great to see everyone and great to hear your voices again. Maybe just a bit of a recap on what I talked about last time and an update of some of our new discoveries. So last time I talked about the marine environment in the Falkland Islands, and this time I'm going to concentrate on the climate change aspect of that. Just for those that weren't at my last talk, this gives you some geographical context where the Falkland Islands are, about 800 nautical miles north of the Antarctic Peninsula, 800 nautical miles west of South Georgia, and 400 nautical miles east of the South American mainland. Highly productive. Can you hear me okay, everyone?
Yes, we can, Paul.
Brilliant, thank you. Highly productive, and testament to that productivity are the huge numbers of seabirds we have around the islands, including mammals and major fish and squid stocks. It's arguably one of the most productive places on the Earth, and of course, all very susceptible to changing climate and so on. So we set up a project a couple of years ago to try and understand how our ecosystem functions and to identify key species within the ecosystem, and then to try and understand which of those will be winners and losers in a climate race. So this included physiological experiments, setting up an ecosystems-based approach to fisheries management, and also looking at ecosystem models to try and understand what might happen with climate as it goes forward. So in the model, you can actually perturbate various connections to see what the sort of downstream impact will be. A couple of pictures of some of our experiments. These are respirometry chambers. You can see up on the top left, there's an amphipod in there. And down at the bottom left, we have something called lobster krill. It's a keystone species within our nearshore environment. Very important forage species for just about every predator, whether they're sort of offshore or inshore. And a little squid at the bottom. This is a major component of our ecosystem too, and also features quite heavily in our fishery. So trying to understand how all of this works is really important. And the reason we do physiological experiments is to try and understand how they might fare in numbers of years into the future in terms of their abundances and so on. Just a couple more pictures quickly. It's a baby squid there. You can see its chromatophores. This is something called Doroteuthis gahi, a calamari, a few more there. And then, of course, what we do is gather a lot of information from the scientific literature and work that's been conducted in the Falkland Islands and the work we're doing. We look at the temperature responses and physiological responses to climate and various other environmental parameters. And we pop those into an ecosystem model. And because we have some understanding of the physiology, it can be a dynamic ecosystem model. And that allows us to test different scenarios in a climate scenario. So this is one of the outputs from EcoSim. And as you can see, Up on the left-hand side, you can see various trophic levels running from 1 through to 5. And if you look at the top there, you'll see things like finfish, large predatory squid and predatory fish. And at the bottom, of course, phytoplankton discards and detritus and so on. The circles are sort of correlated to abundance. As you can see, it's quite complex, but we're able to adjust the abundances of a number of these species to try and understand how the system will fare in terms of climate. So we're quite excited. We're at a stage now where we have a dynamic model, and this will go some way to help us be a little bit more resilient in terms of climate. And that was a bit of an update from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. And is there any one particular aspect in particular that you'd like the audience and those watching around to take away from the presentation?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one really important thing is we need to know a lot more about our environments to be able to mitigate climate, but also become resilient to it. It's happening. We can do a lot collectively to try and reduce the impacts of climate change by behaving differently. But as it's coming towards us, we also need to know how to be more resilient to what's coming.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Paul. I do appreciate you sharing your time and insights with us.
Thank you.
Next to welcome Ms. Laverne Ryan from Montserrat.
Good day, William. How are you? Thank you for having me. So I did my presentation just under a month ago. Hasn't been any, but I would like to speak about what has happened on the ground. If you recall, I mentioned our Montserrat Port Development Project, and in September we had terrible ocean currents, and that sort of undermined the construction work that was going on. So some of the material that they were building or compacting to create the jetty area was actually inundated by seawater. So some of that material actually went back into the ocean. And one of the things was that the Meridian company indicated that as part of their give back, they're willing to clean up the kiddie pool that was in Little Bay area to allow adults who cannot go deep into the ocean and children to be able to play in. So that was one win. And they also agreed to create a lifeguard tower in Little Bay. So that was good. Apart from that, our short-term goals remain the same. We want to encourage the use of technology. We want to utilize drones to capture environmental monitoring efforts. We want to utilize hydrographic surveying to continue to capture bathymetric oceans. And like I reiterated in the presentation in September, we have to be able to know where things are so that we can be able to preserve what we have. Additionally, we're looking at encouraging more parents to get their children involved into swimming and other ocean activities so that they can have an appreciation for what we have and then thereby help to preserve and to encourage others to utilize it.
Thank you, Laverne. And are there any further takeaways that you'd like the audience to particularly focus on and think about in your absence?
Yeah, one takeaway message I would have would be to embrace technology and to utilize it for betterment of society instead of shying away from it. There's so many things we can utilize technology, such as drones, to help to make things more efficient and effective for us to be able to monitor this planet and to encourage that we keep it safe and preserve it for future generations.
Thank you, Laverne. And if we can now welcome Ms. Sue Neureuther from the Noisies back again.
Greetings from a wet and windy New Zealand. Thank you very much for having me back again. And since I did speak a couple of months ago, Perhaps I'll just do a wee recap for those who don't know about the Noisies. They're a little group of islands, and they're surrounded by reefs and rock stacks, all interconnecting. It's quite a complex system, and they're located in the Hauraki Gulf, which was once an incredibly productive area, full of marine life, seabirds. Actually, I could see a lot of parallels with what Paul was saying. The Hauraki Gulf is located just out of our biggest city in New Zealand, Auckland, and that's home to nearly 2 million people. So, you know, there are huge amounts of stresses that impact the marine environment in the Hauraki Gulf and the noises. But since I spoke to you last, we've been trying for probably 10 years now to get marine protection around these islands, because terrestrially they're already protected. So what would it be like if you got this holistic protection of the land and sea? You know, how would one benefit the other? And about a month ago, maybe now, not quite, the Hauraki Gulf Marine Protection Bill was finally introduced to Parliament, and it actually passed its first reading unanimously in front of the House, which is it's a big thing, you know, to get that cross-party support. Unfortunately, it was the last day that our Parliament sat, because we're heading into elections in a couple of weeks, less than a couple of weeks now. So what that means for the future, it depends who gets in as the next government and what kind of coalition they form and how or whether they prioritize this work. If they did, it would create an extension to our 2 existing small marine reserves in the Hauraki Gulf, and it would create 12 new high protection areas, of which the Noises would be one. And that would be amazing. That would be 60 square kilometers around the Noises, and there are bigger and smaller ones. So if you had this interconnecting network of protected areas, I don't think we've got any idea what we might see with bounce back. The other thing I think that's important to note is that if we could establish that marine protection, you know, you've removed fishing pressure, which is a huge thing in the Hauraki Gulf, and especially around the Noises. So then that allows us to look at what other things may be causing problems out there. So just how much does the impact of sediment or nutrients contribute to the losses that we're seeing out there? And I guess it's like our own health, that sometimes we don't know what's wrong with us, but we have to eliminate things to find out what's not wrong with us. And, you know, so therefore, not only hopefully would the marine protection bring back some of that biodiversity that I remember as a child, and that's a very difficult thing to try to explain to people about loss, because you can't see loss. But so, yeah, I guess we have to wait and see now. And once we find out what our new Parliament will be and what sort of priority they give it, we just keep going. We get the new politicians back out to the Noisies so that they can actually see the place that they're trying to make decision or policy and decisions about, because until people see it, then they're not going to care, and they're not going to be able to manage it well. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Sue. And is there anything in particular as well that you'd like the audience to take away from your presentation in this regard?
We're all part of the environment, and it's not something that sits off to the side. So, you know, it's enlightened self-interest, if nothing else, that we would look after what we've got. Because if we don't, all those other things that we're experiencing in New Zealand, like cost, which I'm sure everyone else is as well, cost of living crisis and, you know, rising costs of living, if we don't have a healthy environment, then those other things aren't going to be addressed. So I guess we need to be really proactive in this space. We need to be able to use these protected areas to trial active regeneration to see how we can kickstart recovery elsewhere. And this bill that's being presented, we need to get really excited about it, about the opportunities it presents. It's not something, as is proposed at the moment, that you establish these marine protected areas and you review it in 25 years. That's just simply not enough. So there's plenty within the bill that we will be submitting on and challenging. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you for spending your time in the insights with us. And now to welcome Mr. Ludovic Burns from the Easter Island.
Kapai mai, kapai mai, kapai mai. Te atua mana o te rengi e hanga matou mo hamaruru atu ki a koe. O oe e vai mai te ora, pouro at mahana mo here tātou, o ira, maururu tātou piri ki te anga nei mo whananga, o runga i te waikawa mo hāpao, te moana tapu a hotu matua, te moana nui a hiva. I orana ko rua ta atoa. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Well, my name is Ludovic Burns Tuki. I am Executive Director of the organization Te Mau Te Waikawa, and it's a pleasure to be back in this opportunity to share with us our work. And just to beginning, there is something that I always trying to teach with my students. If you want to arrive quickly, go alone. If you want to arrive far away, let's go together. So with this, this is what I would like to share with all the person that are listening in this platform. Yorana Korua.
And Ludo, are there changes that you can share, or any differences in your space with the Sustainable Ocean Strategy that you presented last time you were with us? Any time frames?
Well, I think that my internet is not so good, so I will share only talking. Just to say to the people that in Rapa Nui, the connection with the ocean, with the nature, is coming from our. That's why when I beginning to say my introduction, I blow the poo. That for us, the poo, it's a call that we do just to remember our ancestor, and just to give us all the good vibration for this moment. And so in this context, our culture has always this relation with the nature. So there is a respect and there is conservation that is like the respect, reciprocity, is like what as part of the nature I have to do to continue to get the nature. That is why there is some concept like the tapu, where the king makes some prohibition. For example, if you're going to fish a kind of fish in the coast, if there is some eggs, you know that this fish is going to be tapu during 1 month. The next moon, you can take this fish just to get time to reproduce. So this concept is in our blood. But today, in the evolution of, we have a lot of problems, in like industrial fishing, industrial mining, something that's happened all around the world. That's why in Rapa Nui, from the society, from the community, together, we work since 2014 to create a marine protected area. It was a very, very hard process, a very hard social process in this modern island. But finally, my people vote to create a marine protected area. And from 2017, that has been indigenous consultation to my people. They say, yes, we need this marine protected area, but we need to participate in the administration of all this area. That's why the figure in Rapa Nui is very unique, because this is a co-administration with the states, where the elected council in Rapa Nui or have the majority in the decision, and because we have say council, local council, and we have 5 representatives of the states, and then we have the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of the Defense, we have the Ministry of the Economy, and finally we have the Ministry of the Environment, and then we have a Commission of Development of Rapa Nui. So in total, there are 11 representatives that have the administration of this marine protected area. And today, we have 720 kilometers square of protection between a marine park and a multiple use marine protected area. So from this date, from 2017, it created the marine protected area. It's been created the council that will be in charge of the administration. And now that we are in 2023, we are working in the plan, because you have the marine protected area, you have the people who will be in charge, but now you need a plan. But this plan we have worked, it was a technical plan. So if you want that to implement effective conservation, you need to make this plan with the people. That's why right now, we think about November and December, we are going to doing indigenous consultation with my people. I think that it will during about 3 months during all this process. The most important is that this plan is going to say to my people, so that's the opportunity where you work together with the people, because when the people say yes, you know that this plan that you are going to implement in the next 5 years is a plan with the people. So it's more easy. It's not only like the institution is coming to the people. No, it's together to make the plan. So that's a little new situation that we have in Rapa Nui. And in this way, like organization that we work very, very strong in the education and the cleanup, all the work that we make is in the line with this plan. So what we are doing today is action that is going in line with the plan. So that's why it's important that communication, coordination, action between all the different stakeholders is a key for the success. So that's why we believe a lot in the education. So each time that we have some workshop with the children, we do it just always thinking in the line with the administration plan that is coming to the consultation. For one part about the education. And the other thing that I would like to share with you is that in the model of the cleanup, since 2018, we're making a lot of cleanup, at least 2 per month, with the people that in this time was trying to give caution and some little action that each participant can do, that like the recycling, like using the bottle, that you're going to fill the bottle, so you're going to reuse the bottle. So each time that you make it, each time is a plastic bottle less in the ocean. So this action that we was doing, it was trying to make conscious. But now, our cleanup, we create a program that is called Hohonu. And well, I would like to share with you in the text. I would like to share with you the song, because we have a song about this program, and the song is the story about a small fish that is in the deep ocean. That's why Hohonu means deep. That say to the world, why in my house I have to receive all the plastic that you don't recycle. That's the sound. So in this way, the program Hohonu is an integral program. We take now this program like an opportunity to make it first like cultural program. It means that each point, we have 9 points of cleanup. Each point is associated at introduction about the place where we are, the story that is associated at the place, the platform that we have, the name of the place, So all this information is the vision of the cultural way. The second thing is an environment way that we invite the people to be part of this movement, like small action that they can do, not well. Something that I always teach is that in the world there is only 2 kind of person, only 2 kind. The first one is who have always some excuse that is the fault of the enterprise, of the government, of the mayor. This is a kind of person. The second one is who trying to find solution. Trying to find solution is not that you're going to save the world. It's simply what is my responsibility in this thing. So trying to looking in the interior, So that's the vision that we do with this program. So we invite the people to get some small action like recycling, turn off the light if you don't use, when you're charging your phone, if you don't charge, take off, some this small kind of action. And finally, this program Hohonu, we want it to transform like a model that can be sustainable. What does this mean? It means that each action that you have to do, you need funds, you need money, So in this program, what we're going to do is giving capacity to the students that now in March, we are beginning with this program where we are going to giving a certification that this student that he study tourism will be one monitor of the cleanup. So it means that he can make a product with the tourists. He can increase the money of this, invite the tourists to pay to be part of the cleanup, and he will have the protocol to put all this information in one program. So I know that it's a little large, but this is what I was wanting to share with you. So that's what we do in Rapa Nui.
And thank you very much for sharing too. Looking forward to hearing very much more from you very soon. And if we may as well, we're going to turn as well over to Faye Sapsford from Bermuda again for another message, and then hopefully maybe take a question or two from the audience.
a win since my we have definitely had a big win since then because the High Seas Treaty has now opened for signature. A big part of my treaty was kind of, a big part of my presentation was kind of talking about how the High Seas Treaty, or BBNJ Treaty, which is Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Treaty, would really affect the work of the Commission because for the first time, it would kind of, in a way, it would make a politically binding agreement for the whole world, similar to the Hamilton Declaration. It is sort of, that's like very simplifying it, but you know, for the first time, that's the UN acknowledging that, you know, the high seas are important. And it establishes a mechanism to create marine protected areas on the high seas. So that treaty had been under negotiation for over a decade when I was giving my presentation, and I think it had recently been agreed. So they had agreed on the final text. Since then, the treaty has opened for signature. And during UNGA in New York, the UN General Assembly, and it already has 81 signatures, I think, today, as of today, which is a really incredible start to this treaty. The treaty requires 60 ratifications to enter into force. And to be clear, signatures are not the same as ratifications, so it's not quite cause for celebration yet. A state can just sign the treaty, which indicates its intention to ratify, but it doesn't bind them to ratify. Ratification is like a more formal legal process where the state has to like review all its laws and potentially write new laws to make this new treaty compatible with their national law. So once the treaty gets 60 official ratifications, then 120 days after that, it will enter into force. And then we get access to these really innovative and cool new provisions, including being able to create marine protected areas. And so it's not like when the treaty comes into force, we will get a bunch of marine protected areas. To actually create them will take more years. It'll have to, you know, go through conference of the parties to this agreement, and it'll take a lot of time. You'll still have to establish a science case and everything. So that's kind of part of what the Commission is doing with these new projects. Like, we're going to have our science case ready to go. We're going to have our government representatives ready to go who can be champions for us in the conference of the parties, so that when the time comes that we can use this agreement, maybe the Sargasso Sea could be one of the first marine protected areas to put a proposal through the High Seas Treaty for a more kind of robust and holistic and legally binding set of conservation measures. So those are my little updates, and I'm really sorry to not be able to join you in person. I know there's going to be a discussion and questions, so please don't hesitate to contact me on Instagram or email me, and I can send those details to Carla and everybody if you have any questions, because it's a really exciting time for the ocean. So thank you.
Brilliant. And we're just going to invite the speakers from today back on, and I would just like to ask everybody if there's anything in particular that they have learned from each other, any particular insights or any takeaways that based on the others' presentations, or any further notes for future collaboration that they'd like to share with one another. Mr. Paul, thank you, man.
Yeah, well, it's great to see such enthusiasm amongst the speakers, and each of them coming up with their own solutions to tackle an environmental problem. It's quite inspirational, actually. So I've certainly learned a lot from everyone here.
Yes, likewise, and thank you so much. I've enjoyed listening to all of your updates, and I think it's helpful to remember that it's the ocean that connects us. It's not the ocean that divides us, and certainly fish don't see boundaries. Larval fish don't see boundaries, and it's really important to think about how we can work together and how we can learn from each other, even when we're on different sides of the planet.
Sue?
Yeah, thank you. I've been inspired, honestly. And sometimes it can be quite lonely keeping on pushing in your own part of the world, but it's really encouraging to know that there are a whole lot of other people all around the world doing the same thing, and eventually it's all going to join up.
And I do have to add that New Zealand was certainly an inspiration for the Bahamas in the creation of marine protected areas. I actually spent some time out in New Zealand a long time ago and visited Dr. Bill Ballantyne. And he came out to the Bahamas right after he won the Goldman Prize. The Goldman Prize was being given out right before Thanksgiving, and the Americans weren't sure where he should go after Thanksgiving, and we offered to host him in the Bahamas. This was before my time with my organization. And he got out there talking with fishermen about marine protected areas and the benefits of them. And it was really an inspiration for us as we're moving towards 20% marine protected areas and hopefully 30% by 2030.
Oh, yeah, we started off with we started off well, but man, we're lagging now. But hopefully that can change.
Laverne, Ludo, anything comes?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
for
I
my
would like
part,
to say that it's
Pardon, Ludo. Yeah, we could let Laverne know. Laverne?
it's very
okay. No,
great.
I was very intrigued with what's happening in the Falkland Islands. Being a visitor to the Falkland Islands, I embrace the ecosystem and all the absolutely amazing species that the Falkland Islands have to offer. So I'm really keen to learn more about what Paul has been doing. I've also learned about the Bahamas in terms of the Marine Spatial Plan. Montserrat's own has been stalled for a while, and hopefully we can pick up the momentum again to have it actually ingrained through cabinet. And hopefully we can learn from you guys as to the benefits that can be derived from creating such plans and ensuring that our oceans can sustain us for future generations. It was really great hearing from all of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So in this way, I would like to share with you a word. One ocean, one people, a future for all. That's the vision. That there is only one ocean, and I'm very happy. I'm very great that there is work in all these country, all these islands, and I think that now in the next 7 years we have the opportunity, because in the world there is this target 30 by 30. I think that this is the opportunity to share experience and to give more tips to the rest of the people who want to create a marine protected area, but from a collective vision, and working with the state is very important for the for the for the fund and for the institution that need to make it work. So it's very inspiring to see all of you that in this different way of the ocean, we are working together.
Thank you, Ludo. And thank you all as well for sharing your time and your insights with us today. And thank you as well for taking the time to share everything that you have learned and everything that you're working on with each other. It's our hope as well that your work will inspire and encourage discussions throughout our own home here in Bermuda and throughout other island communities around the globe. And we hope as well that you will all stay in touch. So thank you also to Chubb Bermuda, the exclusive sponsor of the BUEI Talks Island SOS series. You can check out the entire BUEI Talks series on CITV Bermuda and on the BUEI YouTube channel as well. And I'm William Campbell, and I look forward to sharing with you more exciting BUEI initiatives in the future. Thanks so much for joining us.